Well, 15 drivers have rocked up to the Last Chance Hotel, but only 3 of them are going to emerge and find themselves racing in the finale later today. It is time for the Last Chance Qualifier here in the Challenge Series presented by SIMUCUBE. I'm Joe Peak with Jeremy Scott. Jeremy, if we thought it was a pressure cooker yesterday with only 6 making it through, 3 is an even tighter hole of the needle.
It really is, and I talked to a couple of drivers before we came into this, and they were a little nervous. A couple were like, you know what, I'm just here for fun, but still, the pressure is on for drivers to qualify. We're taking 3 to the finals here after this race, and Joe, I've got to say, I don't want to be behind the wheel, especially at VIR, because after, I know you talked to some of the drivers as well, they were talking about the lack of passing opportunities, which is surprising, but not so much so when it's technically a spec car.
I mean, we kind of figured yesterday it could go either way. There's those long straightaways that offer a lot of slipstreaming. Drivers could try and work their way through. But as we saw in practice, it doesn't always work out that way. So track position could be key. They are just in warm-up right now, but we'll see in qualifying in a moment who can position themselves well. Obviously, you want to be in those top 3 after Q.
You definitely do, and we saw how important and vital qualifying was for these racers because the drivers who were up at the front, obviously they stayed up at the front. Granted, a couple of them did have some issues with penalties, a couple of slowdown penalties, but still, the ones at the front were able to stay at the front. So qualifying is just so much more vital. We always say in sim racing that practice doesn't matter, but now we are kind of saying it because it gives us a bigger picture on who's going to be up at the front and who's going to do well in this LCQ.
Well, Chilcutt right now is leading this final practice, so he's positioned himself well. It's Wiggins and Billen who round out the rest of our top 3 in this practice currently. But we're not here for Iverson, so we're not talking that much about practice. We want to talk about what happens in that qualifying once we hop over to there. For those that missed yesterday's action, we had 2 races of 15 drivers. The top 6 in each of those races are automatically in to the feature race, which will take place later today. The remaining 15 are all now competing in this race, which we're about to see. And as we've been harping on, it's those top 3 that will get to the big show a little bit later on. Not often that we see heat racing of this type on the roadside either. This is usually dirt oval racing that has this format.
Yeah, very interesting that we're seeing this, not just dirt oval, dirt road course, which you and I have done as well, where we see the heat races. So this is unique to road racing. Sometimes you see it in championship races in real life, but here you're not technically going to see it. It's just, okay, heat 1, heat 2, and it's a progressive ladder. This isn't that so much. Now, the first 12, they're already set. Now we just have to have them qualify later on this afternoon. But 3 who are going to be here, they're going to be practice, qualify, race. Oh, by the way, they got to practice, qualify, race again after that if they should make it onto the podium.
Yep, so they have to go through the ringer once again. Let's talk about the track that we've been facing off against this weekend for the Challenge Series, Virginia International Raceway. If you're not familiar with it, 3.27 miles, 20 turns. It's sometimes kind of nicknamed the mini green hell because it is so technical, it is so fast. I mean, what's the big danger zones out here for these drivers that we saw yesterday?
Of course, the big danger zones are going into Oak Tree. The first half of the course, you got the S's. We didn't see too much of issue. The big issue that we saw in the first part of the course was in the left bend right there, coming off of turn number 4. That was where we saw a lot of drivers, especially early on in the races, make contact and end up pushing them off into the runoff. Now the roller coaster, oh boy, that's where you see a lot of mayhem, whether it's in the sim or in real life, Joe, as you and I have both encountered several times. And Hogpen, you really want to get a good exit off of there because you want to protect yourself from the draft going into the horseshoe.
Exactly, and going side by side is a very difficult ask. So don't be surprised if we see some drivers get aggressive and unfortunately find themselves with a little bit of damage. As was mentioned a little bit earlier by Jeremy, we did have some penalties yesterday as well. So you do have to try and race clean and fair, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be hard racing. How many times did we see the elbows come out yesterday?
Exactly. There was a lot of pushing and shoving there. Wasn't necessarily penalized too much. What I saw more of are the drivers who would cut the chicanes or cut the corners with just 2 wheels off. That's the big thing. You got to stay on that curbing to make sure you don't draw the eye of race control and get a slowdown penalty.
And those slowdown penalties are automatic for those not familiar with iRacing. So basically, if you go through a certain marker and cut through there, it will automatically add usually roughly a second to your average lap time and require you to give that back, which can be extremely painful, especially on the first lap since it doesn't have an average lap time to go on. So you might see drivers fall all the way to the back, essentially, if they get a cut course penalty there at the start. Looks like qualifying is just starting to kick off. They get 4 laps to try and set their quickest time here, and that will set the grid. Yesterday, it seemed like the tires still had something in them towards the final lap there, Jeremy. So I wonder if we'll see drivers continue to push all throughout this qualifying to try and get the most out of them to get that quickest lap, or if it'll reverse itself and we'll see the first laps be the money laps.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens because as we've been mentioning and harping on, it doesn't matter if it's here or in some of the previous races you and I have been on, drivers are still learning this new tire model that came out earlier this year for the GT3 car. Now we're nearing week 13 of this latest season in iRacing, so drivers starting to get used to it, and there's going to be some more modifications as you saw on iRacing release here this month, I should say. So they're still trying to get a good handle on it. We're on board with number 60 of Alex Chilcutt, one of the fastest drivers in the earlier practice, headed down towards Oak Tree. So it's such a good view. I mean, yeah, we missed the Oak Tree, but son of Oak Tree, thankfully, on the outside of the track. So should something happen to that, won't cause too much of an issue. But Chilcutt with a good run down Madison Avenue, getting those tires warmed up.
See, what I've been saying for a long time is what they should have done is they should have held on to the wood from Oak Tree and then tried to make as many trophies out of that as the years went. That would have been a very cool sort of way to carry on the legacy. But anyways, as we watch Chilcutt here coming around through the roller coaster, this is down into Hogpen. This is on his out lap, I'm pretty sure. He's not going to have a competitive one this time. Why? But look for lap times in the low 145s. I believe in the second race we saw at least one driver, Caruana, get into the 144s.
Yeah, your top 2 or 3 were in the 144, so no surprise there. Caruana near the end trying to do qualifying laps. Of course, it was a slowdown penalty that did him in. Still finished second, but uncharacteristic for Caruana. Right now, we see that most of your drivers are on their flyer. Christian Wiggins coming down the straightaway. He'll start his flyer once he crosses the line. Again, it is technically solo car qualifying, but everybody out there trying to get a flyer here to get on the grid and hopefully up towards the front.
Wiggins taking the double apex there, the horseshoe coming down up to NASCAR Bend. Very difficult left-hander here. Has been named because back in its original incarnation, they had a race with a bunch of NASCAR drivers in it, and a number of big names, including the King himself, went off in that corner, and so thus it became NASCAR Bend.
That makes sense. I mean, you'd think they'd be able to turn left because that's all they do. But
yeah, isn't it ironic?
The irony is very palpable with that one. Wiggins just crossing across Sector 1, 40.252. Looking down the sheet, that's really not the fastest. Chilcutt has a 39.845 for his first sector time. Let's see what he can do in his second sector, 37.6. But Wiggins, and on the back part of the circuit coming down Madison Avenue, a little bit of a jump.
This is out onto that long back straight, just pushing hard to try and get himself the best time possible. He was looking good in the warm-up, but when it comes down to it, you need to be able to perform here in this qualifying. You have limited attempts. Like we said, 4 maximum laps. Chilcutt, the first to put a time down, a 1:45.2 on his first lap. That's a very good sign that right out of the gate, Chilcutt has some good laps in. He is currently a quarter of a second ahead of Floyd Kerr.
Yeah, Floyd Kerr's going to be one to watch. We saw that he ended up pass-through penalty for incident responsibility in his semifinal race. Made his way up to the top 10 after running all the way at the back for the better part of the first half of the race. Here's Micah Mixer trying to go across the line down through Hogpen for his first flyer. Actually going into Hogpen, I should say, coming out of the roller coaster. Sets himself up for the right-hander. Now gets heavy on the gas for the kink. and through the DRS, what would be the DRS zone for an open wheel vehicle, down the front straightaway. Again, trying to beat a 45.270. I don't think he's going to do it, but it's going to be pretty close. 46.686. That's right now good enough for about 11th.
A bit surprised that right now, just ahead of him is Wiggins in 10th. So we saw him look very fast in the practice, but can't seem to back it up. Nathan Deering, like you said, just behind him, about 1.7 seconds off the pole currently. We're still waiting for lap times from Chris Davis, William Day, Dorian Lever, and Micah Mixer. And there could be reasons why they don't have one on the board. One of the easy ones, Jeremy, is if you go outside the track boundaries, iRacing automatically deletes that lap.
It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 tires. If you get a 0 or 1X, that is it for your lap. It is scrubbed. So you go from 4 laps to 3 laps, and you're still working lap number 1.
Still Chilcutt up at the top. Alex Zart currently in that 3rd position. Those top 3, Chilcutt, Kerr, Zart, sitting well right now. But how is it going to look at the end of the race? Well, Turner Schroll is going to say, hey, put me in there, because he jumps up to 3rd. Michael Billen was in 4th, now 5th, as Chris Davis has moved himself up into 3rd. We're starting to see quite a bit of evolution here in this later stages of qualifying.
And no surprise here, the drivers try to get up. Keegan Kalick up to 3rd with a 45.596. Again, 44.951. That is your time to beat. We're watching Dorian Lillever in the number 8 to see if he can log a time. 45.981. That is good enough for 10th fastest.
So top 10 for him. Still not going to be good enough to bring him home. He's going to have to pass a lot of cars to get to the advancing positions. Just William Day and Micah Mixer now that are lacking a lap time with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. And unlike what we see in most modern day qualifying, the way the sim is set up in this format of qualifying, you do not get to complete hot laps. So you definitely had to get out there relatively early and not sit around and wait for a qualifying cloud as Alex Chilcutt, still our provisional pole sitter, now about 3.5 tenths ahead of Floyd. So he's found a little bit of speed in his previous laps. Following him through the final part of it. And this is going to be onto that main straight, past the paddock once again. A little less than 3 minutes to go on the clock. Will this be an improvement on the 44.9 that he currently holds as he crosses the line? It looks like no, it will stay at the 44.9, so he does not extend the gap. Now we hop over to Kalick.
Yeah, looks like Chilcutt with a quick off. So final flyer out of Chilcutt. Egan Kalick so far on the final sector of his lap. Number 829 coming down the straightaway. Best time of a 45.595 across the line, 50.175. So not good enough to improve upon the 7th.
Indeed. Hausman will cross the line, and he does improve. He goes up to 4th. That is much better, but still not within the top 3. So he'll have to make at least one pass. And he was 0.003 of a second off of being in 3rd place. Michael Billen still just barely ahead of him. Here comes Micah Mixer across the line. And looks like we'll jump away from him instead. We'll head back to Chris Davis. Briefly was within those top 3. For now, he's been shuffled down to 5th.
45.506, his best time coming around for lap number 4. Lap number 1 was invalidated due to most likely a wheel off, but down Madison Avenue, Joe, he comes at full song, 40.016. His best time in Sector 1 is, it looks like the rest of the field, especially when you look at the top 12, running 39s there, 37.783. It kind of gives you it looks like he might be a little off, but nonetheless, let's see if he can get around Halsman for his best time, 0.016. Separates those two drivers, so that battle for the 3rd spot really tight. Again, this is Davis's final flyer that he can qualify for around Hogpen, down the pit straight. What can the number 513 do? He just needs at least a 10th to improve up to 3rd, and that is not going to be enough. 45.565 was his last time.
He's about 600ths off of his previous best. And on top of that, he fell down another position as James O'Brien has now taken the 3rd fastest spot. Check out Hall's band once again.
Ooh,
He's
got a couple of fast times that just popped up as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's changed around a bunch there. So Christian Wiggins backing up his practice time, but Hall's band now jumps up into fourth. So it is Chilcutt, Kalick, and Kerr, your top three. But boy, it is looking competitive at the sharp end of the field. We've got the top 9 drivers just over 0.6 of a second apart from one another in qualifying.
And we're on board with William Day right now as he ends his lap because we are done with qualifying, and he only ran one lap at a 46.701. That effectively qualifies him in the field.
All right, qualifying done. I guess it's time to go through our starting grid for today's event as we take a look at all of our competitors ready to go in this race. Not something we get to see as often here in sim racing, all the faces together and smiling. Here is your starting order. Chilcutt on the pole with Keegan Kalick to his outside. From there, it's going to be Floyd Kerr starting from the third position, and Halsman will be starting in P4. After that, Christian Wiggins will start in fifth spot, followed by James O'Brien to his outside in P6. Row 4 sees Michael Billen starting seventh. Chris Davis, unfortunately, was not able to hold on and fell all the way to eighth. Turner Schroll was ninth, and Micah Mixer rounding out your top 10. Stalpus then will be on the inside of the next row with Lever to his outside there in P12. At the beginning of this race, Nathan Deering starts 13th, and Alex Zart will be 14th spot. And last but not least, it'll be William Day rounding out our 15-car field. Pressure is on, Jeremy. Everybody needs to really nail it today, especially if you're up at the front. Mistakes could be costly.
Joe, the lid is tight on the pressure cooker, but how long will it take for it to blow off? We're about to find out because it's a little loose right now. You see the popping, the everything is fizzing out of the pressure cooker right now. We got the formation lap, and that gives drivers a chance to kind of cool their heads, cool their minds, and figure out where they want to be as they head around the horseshoe. Of course, as we mentioned yesterday as well, you want to be smart through the horseshoe, because if you do go off, you have a chance of high centering yourself, and you got to get towed back into the pits, effectively ending your weekend.
We saw on lap 1 yesterday in race 2, we did have some contacts that not only ruined the day for one of the drivers, but for Floyd Kerr, he got a penalty and wound up having to do a drive-through. Now, he regained his way back to 10th place, which was impressive, but he was still out of the transfer spots, unfortunately. So even if you get out the other side of an incident out there, doesn't mean that you're in the clear. Race control could send you down through pit lane.
And, of course, we're taking a look at the cockpit of Alex Chilcutt as he is your pole sitter. Kind of wonder what's going through his mind, Joe. He knows that if he falls back to anywhere behind third, he's got to work that much harder to get into this afternoon's final.
It'll be very interesting to see how he takes this start, because he'll want to get a good jump out there. I mean, you can't win the race into turn 1, but you can set yourself up for a much easier race into turn 1. So I imagine he'll be working hard to try and make sure that he times the start just right, gets himself some distance, and doesn't have to fight anybody into the horseshoe.
World-famous driving steward that we both know very well, who has 3 initials. As I said, he can't win the race in lap 1. He sure as heck can lose it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And hopefully we won't see drivers have that happen this time. We want to see everybody get through that first corner, have some nice hard racing throughout what is a 30-minute race. If you weren't with us here earlier this weekend, all the races for the Challenge Series presented by SIMUCUBE are going to be 30 minutes in length, so there's no strategy to worry about. There's no scheduled pit stops. It is all just a sprint from the start to the finish here in the 911 GT3R Porsches. So GT3R class machines out there competing. Quite a bit of downforce, which also may contribute to some of what we talked about early in the show of the difficulty in passing.
Well, of course, also takes a little bit for the tires to get warmed up. So some of these drivers got to take those first several corners really easy. I would say all the way over to South Bend. That's where you really got to start thinking about being more aggressive, but you still have to be aggressive early on. You got to fight for position going into the horseshoe, and just try not to make any contact that may end your race or somebody else's race, because as you mentioned, no pit stops, no full course yellows, so any black flag is going to be race over. By the way, you could tell the black flags. You'll see a little black square with a P next to it on your timing screen if you're watching here at the Schaumburg Convention Center or on Twitch TV.
Exactly. So everybody will be aware of when those get handed out by the live race control. Meanwhile, the safety car getting ready to pull in as the field lines up in two beautiful columns along the main straight here at Virginia International Raceway. Pace car is in. It is under the control of Chilcutt. The first race they went soon. Second race they waited a bit. And third race it looks like it's going to be another long wait. Chilcutt not going until now as he gets on the loud pedal. Green flag is out and we fly down towards the first corner. And it looks like Alex had a pretty good jump. He is well clear. He'll turn in early anyways just to cover off the threat. 3 wide in behind him as drivers try to give each other space. But look at that, nice and respectful through the horseshoe.
Yeah, Bill with a nice move to the inside, got there in the middle. Oh, we got one already off. It's like it is the number. Chris Davis might be off as he goes wide, and several cars, Nathan Deering involved as well. As we got spinners coming off of turn number 3.
I think Hallspan, one of those drivers. It looks like James O'Brien as well. More drivers and incidents. This is not the start that we were wanting. Multiple drivers effectively out of the running on the very first lap of the race.
Chris Davis involved, Eric Hall's been involved, Micah Mixer also involved once again. But at the front, it's Alex Chilcutt with the lead, followed by Floyd Kerr and Keegan Kalick. Right now, if this race were to end, they would be the ones transferring over. But Billin, he's about 2 seconds behind that transfer spot. I would not be surprised to see him put his head to the grindstone and really get moving.
That made me wince there. Keegan nearly got turned by Billin back there in that fight for third position. I mean, no wonder he wants it so badly, but nearly turned that car around. Look at the separation, though, as we... that may not have been Kalick, actually, that almost got touched. No, excuse me, that looks like that was Schroll and Wiggins that were close together. Into that corner, nearly too wide, and now we're going to get some contact from those same two cars, and that is going to send Wiggins down the hill at Roller Coaster.
Yeah, that's not something that you want to see early on. Stalpus was the one to kind of sent the tap around, but nonetheless, we're ready to complete this first lap. And interestingly enough, Joe, I'm not too surprised that we saw a little bit of more mayhem this first lap than we had the previous 2 races.
Yeah, it does make sense. Have a nice little battle here with Davis ahead of William Day. That's your 2 silver cars in the middle of the screen coming down into the braking of the horseshoe. And it looks like Davis will come out the victor. That's James O'Brien in the orange car trying to challenge on the number 3 of William Day. And Day's done a great job avoiding all the carnage. He started at the very back of the field. He's in 10th already.
And that's the name of the game, at least, it doesn't matter if you finish this race in the transfer spot, but you want to be there for when mayhem does ensue. Now, the top 3, they're way on their way out of there, but, you never know. 4th, 5th, 6th place. They might decide to go a little hard with one another and end up putting each other off circuit. Once you go off, it's going to give a lot of other people a chance for opportunity. As we see a replay with one of the incidents right there.
This is Billin right now.
And that looks like the Bill and Hallsman battle. And Hallsman just with a spin there around the left hook. So got a hook around the left hook, which we've seen that from time to time here. And here's another replay. That was the issue that we saw going into Roller Coaster.
This is the one that might wind up meriting a penalty. We'll see what race control thinks. So Davis, I believe, the one that got involved in that one.
Stalpus does have a black flag against him, so he'll have at least a pass through. So race control does agree with what we saw with Stalpus being incident responsibility in that. But here's the start. 3 wide. Look at that. I thought we were going to go 4 wide at one point.
Yeah, I mean, it started off so well. First corner, and then suddenly when it switches back here coming into NASCAR, we got one car off completely on their own, I'm pretty sure. I didn't see anybody nudging him off. And then it all just suddenly erupted. That was Chris Davis, I believe, who was off there. And then we see Wiggins having to thread the needle. Oh, my goodness. And Lever, unfortunately, with no place to go, just pinched between multiple cars and winding up with damage.
Yeah, Lee Lavere is in the pits right now. I have a feeling that that's going to be a race over for the 8 of Dorian Lee Lavere. And what a shame. We saw how good that he was throughout his semifinal race, but nonetheless, race over early on for the driver of number 8. We're watching Floyd Kerr catch up to trying to hold off Keegan Kalick, but look at that, half a second gap between Alex Chilcutt, your leader, and Floyd Kerr. Again, Joe, I'm not surprised that we're seeing the aggressiveness out of the number 68 because of how good he came up through the back of the pack after having that penalty in race 2.
He knows he's got to make up for that, but he's in the transfer spot, so don't know that we'll see him try to get aggressive and make the pass here for the lead. Because behind him he does have Keegan Kalick, so that could put him on the bubble. However, Billen is already 2 seconds behind, so there's a little bit of breathing room, even if he does get overtaken. I feel like the top 3, if they're smart, will work together.
And that's what we've seen the past 2 races. Get up there, get away from one another, and then if you really want to race with each other, that's when you do it, when you have that large gap. As we're on board with William Day in the 9th position, trying to close in on Deering. Oh, closing a little too close, almost. Made some contact there through roller coaster, but, right now this is just a battle of pride between Deering and Day, and hopefully they can catch up to the front of the pack. Again, we've got just under 25 minutes left in this race, and we've had more action-packed in these 5 minutes, Joe, than we've had any of the 2 races.
And if my memory serves me right, wasn't it Deering that spun very late in race 2 after he was so close to that transfer spot and wound up falling down the order? So this has got to be a bit of a nightmare weekend for him. He's well outside of the transfer spots today as well, looking even less likely that he'll manage to get through.
Got a battle for position now with Deering also near the back of the pack. It's the 5 of Deering, the 3 of William Day as well, as they're going side by side through NASCAR Bend. Look who else is there. It's James O'Brien in the 91. So a little bit of dancing through 3 and 4. As, we mentioned this battle here near the back, but also watching see Floyd Kerr can catch up to Alex Chilcutt in the number 60.
One of our closest fights on the track right now. Deering leading this trio. That's O'Brien in the silver machine just behind. The orange is Halsband as they work their way up through, William Day in the middle with O'Brien at the back of them in the orange. So as Deering leads them up into Oak Tree, this is back onto Madison Avenue. This is looking very strong from William Day, despite the atrocious qualifying. His race pace is impressive.
One thing that I'm noticing too, Joe, is a lot of drivers are taking the South Bend exit a little wide. So the longer this race goes on, we might see some ruts being developed as William Day goes to the inside of Deering. And Deering's going to back off, think, I don't want to make the move just yet. Don't want to defend too hard. But move William Day up to that 8th spot. James O'Brien, though, he smells blood in the water. He wants that 9th.
For any William Day fans that are hoping for a miracle, however, he is 10 seconds behind the lead, which means he's about 8 seconds behind third. Not impossible for him to catch that up, but I'll have to watch and see what his lap times look like in comparison, if there even is a chance for him to maybe get up into those transfer spots. Meanwhile, we continue to watch O'Brien chasing on Deering. Deering lost one, but not going to lose another into turn 1, at least this time by.
So Deering playing a nice little defense. We saw how good of a defense he played in race number 2. It was just a little bit of an off that was his undoing through the S's coming off a snake. And James O'Brien trying to see if he can go Deering into another mistake. Well, we know with Deering running the Hyperion racing team, that he knows talent and he knows how to race. So would not be surprised to see the O'Brien offense not try and get through the Deering defense.
Well, maybe James could flash those headlights enough. What distracts a deer better? But right now, he's not quite close enough to try that trickery, I think. He's starting to drop off after he was looking a little bit threatening for the first half of the lap. Ooh, very strong, though, coming into Oak Tree. Look at how much he gained on the 5, and this is critical. Now he's got a huge tow coming down Madison Avenue, holding off to the right-hand side. That'll cover the roller coaster apex, but not the entry to it because it bends onto the left-hand side. So that could help out O'Brien. They're going to be neck and neck coming to that corner, and indeed, O'Brien takes it with ease down into roller coaster.
Deering letting off just a little bit, but I was going to say that's where we're going to see a lot of passes if we're going to see them into roller coaster, is getting that great entry and exit speed through turn 11 going into Oak Tree, because you can get a good draft heading down Madison Avenue. We're watching Alex Chilcutt as he holds on to a 0.6 of a second lead over Floyd Kerr. And of course, they've opened up a bigger gap to Keegan Kalick. But one thing I'm interested in to see if Michael Billion can catch up to Kalick, and we'll have a battle here for that transfer spot. Looking at the lap times, Joe, it might happen. I mean, they're 0.2 of a second apart from each other in lap times, 2 seconds so on the track.
Yeah, 2-second difference, as you mentioned, to get up to that transfer position. So he definitely has motivation to push here. This is Kalick, who has fallen off of those top two. So that's not good news for him. He'd probably like to keep touch in case something happens. They start battling. He could pick up another safety spot, keep himself out of reach of the number 12. But he's in no man's land currently. We still have 20 minutes left to go on the clock, so there's still a lot of racing left.
Joe, we have lost Micah Mixer, so he is out of the race. A shame, because he's a victim of early issues in the race. Now, of course, we're also keeping a close eye on a couple of battles, as we mentioned, one near the end of the top 10, but this battle for the lead between Chilcutt and Kerr, in spite of it being only a half second, it's still decently spicy. Look at that. Kerr was a 1/10 of a second faster than Chilcutt on the lap time. So, yeah, able to close up to that 0.5 of a second. Let's see what happens. A bit of a jump from Chilcutt around the apex. And as we mentioned, you want to stay to the outside of those apex curbings, because iRacing will ding you a slowdown penalty if you put one wheel off through there.
Yeah, it is. It's usually the center of the car if it goes over what it considers one of the cut zones that iRacing tends to measure, where it'll check and give you that slowdown penalty. Coming through the snake, definitely one of the spots where you got to watch out for that, because you're trying to straight line it as much as possible. Last lap between them. Saw another 0.2 quicker for Floyd. So again, he's looking like a bit of an issue for Alex, but I mean, how much does he want to try and push that?
And you know, here's the thing. He's been pushing just himself through the S's right now. So, does he push something there on 11 and 12? Well, we have yet to find out, but nonetheless, this is an interesting strategy here. Handful of minutes ago, about 16 and about 17 minutes left in this race. You know, look at how much he's closed in, though, right now. Kerr doing the best that he can to get up to Chilcutt, try and get inside his head. Not going to make anything happen. Also, a battle I'm watching is the battle for fourth place between Michael Billen and Turner Schroll. About 0.4 of a second separate those two drivers. Are heading down Madison Avenue right now. And of course, I'm wondering here if Schroll's thinking, I might be able to catch third place, and that's why we're going to see those two kind of slice and dice here. But look at that. Hull's been opening up a 2 to 3 car length gap going in to the roller coaster.
He's just stretching it away. Unfortunately for him, it's only for 10th place, so it's not going to do much in the end. So we switch over to the number 12 in the meantime. This is Michael Billen being chased by Schroll, who you talked about a little bit earlier. And Schroll trying to do his best, knowing that it's going to be a long shot to get into those transfer spots. This is his first step on that journey. If he can make the pass on that number 12, but the 4 needs to be a little bit closer to execute anything into the horseshoe.
So far, so good, actually, through 3, as I was saying. So a little bit of dirt kicked up by Kalix. So Kalix just a little bit too far away for anything to happen. We got 14 minutes, so one wheel wrong, and it's going to be game afoot for those 3 drivers.
Absolutely. I said it earlier on before we got the green flag that you cannot make any mistakes today. You have to be perfect out there. Villain knows it. There's those flashing headlights we were joking about a little bit earlier. Turner now starting to try to pull out the psychological warfare on his rivals.
That's what you have to do sometimes, but then again, these mirrors are just a little bit different than in real life. I mean, you can pay attention to them, but at the same time, you can just block them out. I just got to try a couple of the sim race here, and yeah, I was able to block out some of them, but yeah, if you're close enough, if you have wide enough depth of vision, it could be a distraction, though. At this point, when you're trying to battle somebody, you want to have tunnel vision, but still be able to look ahead. We're watching the two work their way around the roller coaster. Schroll running a little bit faster, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference.
The last lap for Schroll, a 45.8. For Billen, a 45.9. Very, very close on pace. They're about to complete the latest of laps now. Start lap 11, so let's see what the difference across the line looks like between them this time, if it's been any sort of gain from the number 4. There's a 45.6 from Billen. Schroll with a 45.8 from Billen and a 45.7 from Schroll, so another 10th knocked off.
That's what you need to do sometimes, is just eat away at 10ths, and then once you get past, that's when you uncork the bottle and have your sights set on that transfer spot, because Schroll right now racing closer and closer out of desperation. We've got shy of 11 and a half minutes left in this race, so about 6 laps to go. Anything can happen here, especially on that front half of the circuit from Hook all the way over to South Bend.
Yeah, you got to stay with it. Like we were talking about with Floyd yesterday, I mean, the fact that despite a penalty, he stayed out there and pushed as hard as he could. Wound up getting a lot of spots, and that was very, very wide from Michael Billen. He's lucky he was able to save it. Often, if you hit the grass coming out of South Bend, that spits you right into the tire barrier on the left.
What did I say a couple laps ago? We're seeing more and more drivers drop wheels off. And if you take a look, it's a lot dirtier there on the exit of South Bend than it has been all race long. Right now, Schroll has a nice draft coming off of Billen. Let's see if he can capitalize here, either going into a roller coaster. Looks like he's going to look to the inside. Not going to make anything happen as Billen shuts the front door on him.
This is a lot closer than he's been on the previous laps. He's worked hard to get to this position, and this is perfect timing for him, because this is where he needs to be tied up to that rear diffuser and get a good exit. I saw a tiny little bit of slide off the turn, but it doesn't seem to have hurt him, because that bright yellow car is now threatening the green number 12 of Michael Billen. Can Schroll try and make the move coming down into the horseshoe? There's going to be a defense from the 12 covering off the inside line. No chance of a cutback between them, although he tries to get himself underneath, and Schroll will have to wait for later.
Yeah, Schroll's going to take just a couple of peeks to see what he does to turn 3, but I'll say Billen's going to have a nice offensive line through NASCAR Bend, and now setting up for the left hook. This is where we've seen a lot of races just go wrong with the dumps, but not going to make anything happen. Now we have our eyes on board Halsbin. He's back in the top 10, and he's got the 91 of James O'Brien right in his crosshairs.
It's for the 9th position between them, but it sounds like we may have had something happen in turn 1 between them. So the 78, looking down the inside of O'Brien, manages to get a nose ahead and actually makes a little bit of contact. Wonder if he gave that position back, because since they're swapped back around here.
He sounds like that he did. So I'd imagine the race control is going to look more kindly on that than they would him keeping the position. I'm not seeing anything on the race control chat of anything, any penalties. So that's the good news.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was probably a smart thing on his part. Wants to try and make it happen clean. And he'll get another chance at it. as he's got a nice little run here coming down Madison Avenue. Watching on board with Eric. He'll manage to get side by side. How much does he dare coming into the roller coaster? Late on the brakes. Now he's got to make the corner, and he does. So it looks like James O'Brien may have just given up the ghost on that one.
That was a fantastic move going into roller coaster. You know, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you're good. I think it was both out of Halsband.
Yeah, a fantastic move. Braked as deep as he could. And on top of it, James just not as brave as him in that game of chicken into the braking zone. So that'll put Halsband up into the 9th spot. But a little bit of a fight back. O'Brien looking to try and re-attack coming down into the horseshoe. Doesn't quite bear fruit.
A lot of drivers noting that they can use a defensive line and still make the corner, which is fantastic. Let's see if O'Brien can close in through NASCAR. Does not, and that's not going to set anything up through the left-hander right there. But, Joe, it's going to be quite interesting to see how rough these two drivers are through the S's.
Looks pretty good to me. Not really cheating those curbs too hard, so no slowdown penalties for either of them. And that car in the background is Nathan Deering, who seems like he wants to get back in the fight. And some of that may have been helped by these two going side by side so frequently. Yeah, that was a bit wide there from O'Brien.
Yeah, look, I think he got a little bit of air there because I saw a little bit of bounce, but still, O'Brien able to reel in Halsband coming around Oak Tree. Now both of them trying the defensive move down Madison Avenue. They took the line a little early. It's going to be interesting to see what happens down into the roller coaster. I don't think that O'Brien's close enough to make anything happen on Halsband, but Halsband is going to have to do some sort of defense. O'Brien with a quick look does not make anything happen. Does is the smart move.
Definitely pressuring him now, though. You can see he wants to get that spot back. He thinks he could hold him back if he can get up there. Thought maybe that Eric was the quicker of the two, but O'Brien has held on to that rear spoiler pretty well. Ooh, he's got another decent run. He's a bit far back. I'm not sure if he's going to have an opportunity unless he wants to be pretty aggressive, and he'll have to be aggressive. Look at how far to the inside Eric went to try and defend, and O'Brien knows when he's been beat into that corner. Instead, he goes for the cutback on the exits, and it was a good try, Jeremy, but just didn't have the speed.
Doesn't have the speed. It's kind of tough to go around the outside, especially around 3 and 4, but I've also got my eyes back on that battle for the lead, and don't look now, Floyd Kerr has tried another shot at trying to get to Alex Chilcutt as they work their way around into Oak Tree. But yeah, this battle here between Day and Halsband's pretty good. Also, we've been lucky because we haven't had 3 good battles during one race. Billen and Schroll still trying to go in lockstep.
It's been these 3 duos that just don't seem to separate from one another in the middle of the race. But now we're coming down to the final stages. Ooh, this is pretty close from Billen. And this is an important, from Schroll, rather, I should say. This is a somewhat important spot. They're still close enough that they could catch up to Kalick in 3rd. And Kalick is the last driver who will advance into the feature race a little bit later today. If Schroll feels like he has more pace that he needs to unleash here, he's got to make a pass now.
Yeah, he has to make that pass now because now that the field has crossed the line, 5 1/4 minutes left in this race, it is go time. And of course, these drivers know it. They're getting ready for the final stages of the semifinal race. If you're Billen or Schroll, you really want to get up there and try and make something happen because you want to race here in just a couple of hours. But also, if you're Chilcutt or Kerr, you're up at the front right now, but you still want that win to say, I made it through the LCQ at the pointy end. Halsband trying to hold off O'Brien once again for that 9th spot. I've got to say this, O'Brien doing all he can to distract the number 78 of Halsband, but that's in spite, look at how close he is, in spite of being just a little bit slower than Halsband there.
I love that these drivers are still fighting for these positions because at this point, there's no points to worry about in this. This is all for pride between the two of them. So these are just racers being pure racers right now and trying to finish as high up as they can, even if they can't get the win. Meanwhile, Chris Davis and William Day, and I can't stress enough how much William Day has impressed me from 15th to 8th.
Yeah, that is an absolute. Well, of course, here's the thing. What helped Day out was staying out of trouble in lap one, slicing and dicing his way. And now he's trying to keep his nose clean and try and catch up to O'Brien. Of course, Hall's been not too far away there either. So you've got so many cars that are in position for some sort of pass here. It's going to be interesting to see the final laps to see what happens as we watch Billen and Stroll still fourth and fifth, tooth and nail. Stroll, as we saw last time by, 0.003 of a second faster than Billen.
For Stroll, he's watching that sand continue to fall down through the hourglass and knowing the opportunities are becoming less and less if he wants to try and fight to get into third. Unfortunately for him, Billen has been just a brick wall today, has not allowed him to get by, and really unflinching. I mean, what a great job from the 12, despite having a car breathing down his neck late in this race. I don't think we've seen him put a foot wrong.
Oh, we really have. And of course, still plenty of corners left to go. About 2 laps left, just under 3 minutes left to go. So we're going to see what happens here. I have a feeling that Billen is going to keep that defense off of Stroll. That has been one tough battle that Stroll has not been able to crack here since he caught up to the number 12.
Coming down through the climbing S's once again up towards South Bend. I mean, every once in a while you can see Keegan in the camera shots. That's how close they are. The distance less than 2 seconds right now. But it's just becoming so late. There he is right now on Madison Avenue. I mean, 2 minutes left on the clock. Our leaders might actually get the line and get the white flag, depending on how far ahead they are.
Well, they're coming through roller coaster right now. He's on your Chilcutt and Kerr. They've been, again, another imposition of them two just running nose to tail for most of the race. Kerr's been trying to do all he can to get inside the head of Chilcutt, but it's been so hard to do. It'll be interesting to see how these two race one another, watching the clock, watching their lap time. I think they're going to get 2 laps to go this time by, and yes, indeed, they will.
The line was right there. They crossed without 145.
So that white already waved the white flag.
White flag, there you go. Okay, so this is the final lap of the race. And now look at Floyd getting a lot closer than what we've been seeing on previous laps. He's starting to turn it up. That to me says that he was kind of waiting patiently and saving something for the end in case he could steal that win.
No, he was exactly 1/10 of a second faster than Chilcutt this past time by. He's closed that gap into 0.3 of a second, now 0.2 of a second. Oh, Kerr wants that win. He wants to tell people that he is your LCQ winner. And of course, that will help him out to get into the finals. But he's one of 3 drivers that could qualify as we're watching the 2 drivers make their way through the S's and into South Bend. Now, this is going to be critical. Can they both avoid that rut there? And indeed they do, heading into Oak Tree for the final time for this LCQ. They've been the class of this race, Joe. Can they stay put in line astern, or will Kerr decide to make a move here coming off of Madison Avenue?
Floyd was trying to diamond off the exit of the corner as best he could to get himself a run, but it looks like it has not worked. Chilcutt, 0.4 of a second ahead. The slipstream is pulling the 68 back into our leader, but it's too little too late at this stage. If Alex is able to stay steady through this final portion, he could be good, but it's late on the brakes as we got a car off course a little bit farther back.
That's Chris Davis.
Floyd Kerr did not manage to get close enough to try and make an attempt, and it doesn't look like it's going to be the case here out of Hog Pen as Alex Chilcutt took the pole and then defended and didn't buckle under the pressure to win the last chance qualifier.
And of course, we're still waiting for Keegan Kalick to come across the line, and he is going to find his way into the final here. Kalick is your final qualifier out of the LCQ.
Amazing job. Day comes home in 7th place, so he gained another position while we weren't looking. As behind him, Hallsbend will have to settle for 8th. O'Brien in 9th. Jeremy's getting ready to go and have a chat with our winner. Deering did manage to limp that car home into 11th, Wiggins in 12th, and then Staupis, Mixer, and Lelever were our DNFs for today. 3 cars not making it, as 3 do advance on. There's your results. Chilcutt, your winner. Floyd Kerr in 2nd. Keegan Kalick He'll be the last driver to advance to the feature. There, the Canadian managing to squeak through. Ahead of Michael Billen, who is only behind by about a second and a half in fourth. Unfortunately for him, a second and a half still means his day is over. Turner Schroll was fifth, as Alex Zart comes home in sixth position. William Day in seventh. Eric Hallsman in eighth, and James O'Brien ninth. Chris Davis rounding out your top 10. Nathan Deering finished in the 11th spot. Christian Wiggins in 12th. Stalpus, Mixer, and Leliever, your DNFs for today. So we've got Jeremy over with our winner. Let's throw to him and see what his thoughts are.
All right, Alex, first of all, congratulations. We were watching the battle between you and Floyd all race long. How tough was it to keep him behind you?
Well, I mean, we had an incident in yesterday, so I was a little worried, but he came up to me, he apologized for it, and we're like, okay, we got a plan. We're just going to follow each other, we're going to make this nice and easy, we'll make it to the finals. So it was a little stressful, but I knew he wouldn't fight me, and at the end of the day, it worked out.
All right, we'll have you get ready. Congratulations. That's Alex Chilcutt, your winner. Let's see if we can follow and get to Floyd Kerr. What's up? Floyd. Okay, so Floyd, second place. Let's talk about yesterday, though. You had an incident, worked your way up to the front. How did that help you into today's race?
Well, into today's race, I was kind of going in with Alex Chilcutt as like a more of a teammate because I made a mistake in yesterday's race, and it cost him and cost me with that drive-through penalty as well. So going into this race, I knew he'd be quick, and he'd be someone I want to kind of pair up with and see if we can leave and get into the finals together because we both deserve to be there, in my opinion. We both had the pace, but yesterday that mistake kind of cost both of us. So I'm glad today we were able to make it through.
All right, congratulations. Go get ready for the race. So we've got our 3 LCQ qualifiers, Joe. Now everybody's trying to get sorted and get set up for the final race here in just a couple of minutes.
Indeed. So we'll take a little bit of a break here in just a moment. Make sure and stick around because we'll have the finale coming up. But now we have our 15 set. Again, you're watching the Challenge Series presented by SIMUCUBE here at the Renaissance Schaumburg Convention Center. Stick around.